You know, I remember early in my career, I was at a dinner party with the CEO of Lockheed Martin, and he looked at me and he said, Paul, the only way that this will end is if weapons are free. You know, and that's when I realized that nation building is a lifelong pursuit. This is not something that you just dabble in. Always improving, always looking for new targets, always spending. I'm Paul Etishion, and this is my nation building masterclass. Nigeria, Afghanistan, Cuba, Libya, Venezuela. And these are just a few of my massive successes. Being lobbied to can be very tiresome, but it can also be very rewarding financially. You know, if you've left things worse than you started, that's how you know you've done your job. Albert Einstein once said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But what Einstein didn't mention is that's also the definition of a successful career in foreign policy. Corruption has gotten sort of a bad rap, but you have to realize that's coming from the point of view of the people not benefiting from the corruption. So they're only telling one half the story. I plan to teach you destabilization. Sometimes you have to make things worse before you can force people to pay you to make it better. Doubling your dollar. You see, an amateur nation builder will arm one side of a conflict, but a true professional knows how to arm both. Failure. You know, I remember after bombing a civilian wedding, thinking to myself, the media is gonna have a field day with this. But to my surprise, they were actually quite charitable with our efforts. And that's when I realized these reciprocal friendships need to be cherished. Location, oil, drugs, diamonds, all telltale signs of a region in need of democracy. You have to look past the death tolls to the contracts that were attached to those death tolls. You know, when I was a young kid, I used to bike over to some of the poor neighborhoods and throw smoke bombs into the stairwells of the apartment complexes, sometimes injuring the pets. And a man in a suit came up to me, I was just a kid at the time, and he said, have you ever heard of nation building? I said, I haven't. This was just something that I did instinctually at the time, and I now know that man to be John Bolton. Some people have accused me of being too secretive while nation building in, for example, Syria. But the truth is, I just don't want to make a whole thing of it. I do it for the love of the game. Other countries will always be copying our work, but I take it as a compliment. But it does force us to buckle down and improve when convincing African warlords to take our infrastructure instead of homophobic pipelines from China and Russia. Sometimes I've asked, how do you convince people who see you as foreign spies from an invading empire trying to replace their culture? But they are missing the crucial component that once we are finished our process, they can now come to America as refugees where their culture will be applauded. Bill Kristol once said to me, McDonald's over there, mosques over here. And that's a mantra that I've internalized. Some nights I do have trouble sleeping when I think of the damage we've done. I get sort of a giddy, exciting feeling, akin to having a caffeinated beverage before bed, and I have to rely on counting drones to calm myself back into a slumber. Nation building brings people together from all sides of the aisle. I remember thinking back to a summer on the beach where George Bush, Hillary Clinton, and myself were riding a triple bicycle along the waterfront and thinking to myself, where else could you find this kind of bipartisanship?